She has no idea. If you heard that in the dark, would you stay quiet or would you run? Because I didn't move. I couldn't. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My name is Isolde Marek. I'm 69 years old, and at that moment I was curled up in the cramped footwell of my own son's car, barely breathing, my heart pounding so loudly I was certain they could hear it. The engine was off, the night was still, and I was hiding like a stranger in my own life. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Just an hour earlier I had been standing outside Corvin's apartment building, holding a container of lamb stew, his favourite since he was a boy. I remember smiling to myself, thinking how surprised he'd be. He hadn't been answering my calls lately. Always busy, always distracted. So I thought, why not do something different? Something he'd remember. I still had the spare key to his car. I told myself it would be sweet, harmless. I'd sit inside, wait for him to get in, and when he did, I'd say, "Got you." He'd laugh. He used to laugh. But that version of my son never opened that car door, because when it finally did open, everything changed. He got in, and someone else got in with him. I froze instantly, shrinking deeper into the shadows as the door shut and sealed me into the darkness with them. Then I heard her laugh, soft, low, familiar, too familiar. It slid into my memory like something I should recognize, but didn't want to. My fingers tightened around my coat. My throat burned from holding back even the smallest sound. Then Corvin spoke, not the way he speaks to me, not warm, not distracted, controlled, measured. And then he said my name, not Mom, just Isolde, a pause, and then, she has no idea. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like the floor had disappeared beneath me. What didn't I know? What was he talking about? And why did it sound like I wasn't supposed to hear any of this? Then the woman leaned closer to him and whispered something I couldn't fully catch, but I heard enough. A name that made my blood run cold, because it wasn't just familiar, it was impossible, Milis. That was the name I heard, and the second it left her mouth, every part of me went cold, not because I knew a Milis, because I knew that Milis Rook, 66, my closest friend for more than 40 years. Tell me something. What would you do if the two people you trusted most started talking about you like you were a problem to manage, like you were already halfway erased? Because that's exactly what it felt like. I stayed perfectly still in the back, folded into that narrow space behind the passenger seat, while the woman I had cried with, celebrated birthdays with, and trusted after my husband died, sat inches from my son and spoke in a tone I had never heard from her as before, low, urgent, familiar in all the wrong ways. "We don't have much time, Corvin," she said. There was no confusion left then, no hoping I had misheard. It was her. Corvin exhaled like a man under pressure, tapping lightly on the steering wheel. "I told you, Malis. She won't suspect anything. She, not Mom, not my mother, not even Isolde, just she." The word hit me harder than I expected. It stripped away something, made me realize that whatever this was, it had been happening for longer than I understood, maybe longer than I wanted to understand. Malis gave a quiet laugh, and under any other circumstance it would have sounded gentle. That night, in that car, it sounded poisonous. "You've been saying that for months," she murmured. But we're close now, once the papers are signed. Papers. I felt my pulse jump. Instantly, my mind started racing backward. Every recent visit, every conversation I had brushed off, Mylis offering to help sort my files, Corvin suggesting I simplify things, both of them telling me I needed less stress, more support, fewer responsibilities. At the time, it had sounded caring. Now, it sounded coordinated. Corvin lowered his voice. She trusts you. That's the key. If she didn't... He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Mylis did it for him. We wouldn't be sitting here. The air in the car turned heavy. I could feel my breathing changing, getting shallow, dangerous. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. Then Corvin said the words that shattered whatever denial I still had left. After tomorrow it's done. The house, the accounts, everything transfers cleanly. Everything. My house, my savings, my life. And before I could even process that, Mylis whispered something even worse. She won't realize until it's too late. Then Corvin said very calmly, almost casually, we just need to make sure she doesn't interfere. After tomorrow. And that was the moment I understood. This was bigger than betrayal. It was a plan. She won't interfere. Those 3 words kept echoing in my head, over and over, louder each time. What did that mean? What exactly was I not supposed to interfere with? And more importantly, what had they already done? I didn't move, not an inch. Even as my legs began to ache and my chest tightened from holding my breath too long, I stayed exactly where I was, because now this wasn't about a surprise anymore. This was about survival. Mylis shifted in her seat, the leather creaking softly. Her voice dropped lower, more precise. You said you had a solution for that. Solution. The word landed like something final, something already decided. There was a pause, just long enough to feel intentional. Then Corvin spoke. Calm. Steady. Like he had rehearsed this. The doctor already signed off. My stomach dropped instantly. A doctor? What doctor? And then it hit me. Last week, the appointment he insisted I go to, the one I didn't even think I needed. You've been forgetting things, he had said. Just a quick check, for peace of mind. Peace of mind. Mylis let out a soft breath, almost satisfied. Good. Then it'll look natural. Cognitive decline, confusion. It fits her age. Fits her age. I felt something inside me crack. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like something fragile finally giving way under pressure. Corvin continued, his tone almost clinical now. Once the diagnosis is official, I get power of attorney, full control. She won't be able to reverse anything. Diagnosis, power of attorney, control. Each word stripped something away from me. My independence, my voice, my ability to fight back. I remembered sitting in that office, the doctor barely making eye contact, asking vague questions, sliding papers across the desk, and I signed them, because my son was sitting right next to me, because I trusted him. Mylis chuckled softly. And she still thinks we're helping her? That one hurt the most. Not the plan, not the manipulation, the certainty. They were sure I would never figure it out. Corvin leaned back slightly. I could hear the faint shift in the seat. After tomorrow she won't have a choice. The house will already be under my name. By the time she figures it out... He didn't even bother finishing the sentence. He didn't need to. because in his mind it was already over. I could feel tears building, but I forced them back. This wasn't the moment to break. Not yet. Because I needed to hear everything. Every detail, every weakness, every mistake. Miley spoke again, quieter now, and if she resists? A pause, a long one. Then Corvin answered, so quietly it almost didn't sound real. She won't. No explanation. Just certainty. And somehow that was the most terrifying part of all, because it meant they believed I was already powerless, already handled, already finished. And just as I shifted slightly, just enough to ease the burning in my leg, my knee brushed the back of the seat, a soft sound, but in that silence, it was deafening. Everything stopped. Did you hear that? Everything inside me froze, not fear, not panic, something sharper, controlled, the kind of stillness that comes when you realize there is no more hiding left to do. The car went completely silent. Even the air felt like it had stopped moving. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. For a second, just one, I thought maybe they'd ignore it. Maybe they'd brush it off. But Corvin wasn't that careless. That wasn't nothing, he said, his voice tighter now. Alert. I heard movement, the subtle shift of his body turning, the faint creak of leather as Malis adjusted beside him. Probably just something outside, she said, but there was hesitation now, a crack in her calm. Suspicion had entered the car, and once it's there, it doesn't leave. Then the overhead light snapped on. A harsh yellow glow flooded the interior, cutting straight through the darkness I had been hiding in, and just like that, there was nowhere left to disappear. Corvin turned fully in his seat. Our eyes met. I watched it happen in real time, the exact moment everything changed in his expression. First, confusion, then shock, and then recognition. Mom, the word came out wrong, not warm, not relieved, caught. That's what it sounded like someone who had just realized the entire plan had been overheard. Malis inhaled sharply beside him, but she recovered fast, too fast, her face smoothed over, her posture straightening, as if she could still regain control of the situation. Isolde, she said carefully, like she was stepping onto thin ice. I pushed myself up slowly from the footwell. My joints protested. My hands trembled, but my eyes never left them. How long were you there? Corvin asked. I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because the truth was already sitting between us, long enough to hear everything they thought I never would. The air shifted instantly. No more whispers, and no more pretending, just exposure, raw and undeniable. This isn't what you think, Malis said smoothly, but even she didn't sound convinced, because what else could it be? I finally spoke, my voice quieter than I expected, but steady. The house, the doctor, all of it? Corvin leaned back slightly, running a hand through his hair, and just like that, the version of him I knew disappeared completely. It's already done. No apology, no denial, just truth. Something inside me collapsed in that moment. Years of trust, memories, everything, gone in a single sentence. But underneath that collapse, something else rose. Something colder, stronger, because as I looked at them, really looked at them, I saw it clearly. They thought they had already won. They thought I was too late, too weak, too unaware to do anything about it. And that was their mistake. For the first time since I climbed into that car, I smiled, and that was the moment everything shifted. You could see it on their faces, the uncertainty, the hesitation, because that wasn't the reaction they expected. Not from me, not now. Corvin frowned first. "Why are you—" "You should have checked the dates more carefully," I said, cutting him off. Calm, steady. That stopped him, completely. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a folded set of documents, the same ones he had pushed in front of me days ago, the same ones he thought had sealed everything. "I took these to an attorney the next morning," I said. "A real one, not the man you arranged." Mylis's posture changed instantly. Subtle, but telling. "What did you do?" she asked. I looked at her. I really looked at her, and for the first time in 40 years I saw nothing familiar. "Nothing transferred," I said. "The paperwork was incomplete, improperly witnessed, legally invalid." Corvin shook his head. "That's not possible." "It is," I replied, and the moment I realized something felt off, I had everything reviewed. Silence, heavy, final. "And the doctor," I continued. "I requested a second evaluation the next day, filed a report. The first diagnosis is already under investigation." That's when it hit them. Not just that I knew, but that I had moved faster than they expected, that I hadn't been as blind or as helpless as they believed. Consequence, payoff. Within a week, everything unraveled for them. The doctor who signed off on my decline was formally investigated, his records flagged, his connections examined. It didn't take long before inconsistencies surfaced. Mylis's involvement came next. Financial traces, communications, enough to freeze her accounts while authorities looked deeper. And Corvin, my son, he was charged with attempted financial exploitation and coercion. The evidence wasn't speculation. It was documented. Messages, timelines, intent. People found out. Not rumors, not whispers. Facts. Neighbors stopped greeting him. Extended family cut contact. His name became something spoken carefully, cautiously. Mylis disappeared entirely. No calls, no explanations, just gone. Emotional payoff. Weeks later, I sat alone in my living room, the same living room they had already decided didn't belong to me anymore. It was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that feels empty. The kind that feels settled. I held an old photograph of Corvin as a child, mud on his shoes, that wide, careless smile. I waited to feel something overwhelming, grief, anger, anything. But what came instead was clarity, clean, undeniable, final resolution moment. I stood up, walked to the front door and locked it, slowly, deliberately. Then the windows, one by one, not out of fear, out of certainty. I returned to my chair, sat down and exhaled. Everything was still mine, my home, my decisions, my life. And this time, there were no shadows left.